Good evening. This is the regular City Commission meeting for the City of Largo for Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with an invocation given by Pastor Joe Glimp from the Prince of Peace Lutheran Church in Largo, and it'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Can you hear me, Mayor Brown?
Yes, we can.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you are the creator of us all. We praise you and honor you for your great goodness toward us and for blessings that we may take for granted each day. Make us wise, attentive stewards of the gifts you've given, the land and the water, the beauty around us, the talents or financial resources available for us as a community. All are from your hand, and we thank you. By your wisdom, O God, we have governments to maintain order, to provide services for the common good. In these days, gracious Lord, such tasks are particularly challenging. We thank you for these leaders and for the courage it takes to run for public office. Bless them as they use the skills and judgment you've given. May they exercise them with all humility and diligence. Counsel them in their decision-making. Lead them to discern those paths which are best for all people now and in days to come. And bless as well, we pray, the men and the women who work each day to make certain our city provides protection, safety, and guidelines to live life together in this community. Hear our prayers, O God, for you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
And thank you again, Pastor, for being here.
Sure.
Certainly hope that you're staying safe in this environment. Thanks for joining us as you usually do.
Thank you.
Next up is citizens' comment. I asked the city clerk if we have any citizens' comment.
I have none.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda.
I'd like to pull 8, move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of August 18th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Could I hear the consent docket, please?
Item 3, appointment of William Bill Steers as a member of the Enforcement Board. Lots on Bragginton Street for $30,000. Item 5, blanket authorization for Mayor Woody Brown and Commissioners Jamie Robinson, Michael Smith, Samantha Fenger, Curtis Holmes, Donna Holk, and John Carroll to attend various meetings during fiscal year 2021 for which they may be designated to represent the City of Largo. Item 6, authorization to purchase 2 additional vehicles for the Community Development Department and the Engineering Services Department from Duval Ford in accordance with Florida Sheriff's Association contract number FSA 19-VEL27 in the estimated amount of $54,080. Item 7, approval of amendment number 3 to Pannoni Associates Incorporated Professional Service Agreement RFQ 18-Q-621 Design for Rosary Road Complete Streets Improvements to add design for Pinellas County water utility relocation or replacement as part of a joint project agreement amendment with Pinellas County in the amount not to exceed $75,365.
Thank you. You've heard the consent docket. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent docket without commission discussion as outlined in the commission packets.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item number 8. Commissioner Holmes.
Is anybody there from Environmental Services?
Hi, my name's Candace. I'll be here for
All right.
environmental services.
I have a question for you. The first paragraph says, in accordance with paragraph, I'm not going to read all that stuff. The Florida Administrative Code, the Florida Department, the FDEP requires that specific local discharge limits be developed and enforced by the City of Largo Environmental Services Department upon industrial and commercial facilities. Well, I'm doing a head scratch on that. Is this a self-audit? I mean, this thing reads like, okay, DEP is telling us that we need to set up these limits, but they, according to the Florida Code, under the paragraph, they have the say on this, but they want us to develop our own code and enforce it. And the local limits are evaluated as part of each renewal of the wastewater discharge permit. I'm doing a head scratch on this. If they want us to do it, why didn't they give us the standards they were looking for?
Well, every wastewater treatment plant, it can handle varying degrees of contaminants. So we hired an outside company, Arcadis, to perform a survey, a study, where many samples were taken, many calculations were derived, and you're required to do this every 2 years. And the point behind local limits is so that it will protect our wastewater treatment plant, so that we don't fall out of compliance with our MPDES permit, so that we can effectively treat and that our processes are not harmed. It's also to protect our collection system, make sure our collection system is protected, and the workers. This is typically how it's done, and then the city can adopt its own local limits. The DEP has preliminary gave approval for the study that we've completed, so we just need the city to approve it, and then we can amend our permit.
All right, well, if I'm understanding this, then the regulators, which is DEP, have told the city.
You take the samples, they're analyzed, and then a slew of calculations are done. Let's see if the averages. Another important calculation is percent removal efficiencies, and it's all done to see how much we can effectively tolerate without harming the environment or our system. And then based on that, we can adjust the limits. For example, manganese came back undetected, so we were able to remove that from local limits. We don't have an issue with
Okay,
that.
I don't want to be rude with you here, but if that's the case, is it then that every sewer system, every environmental services, every treatment facility in the state of Florida has different regulations on discharge? We don't have a uniform standard for the whole state?
No, that's correct. Every municipality, as far as I'm aware, develops their own procedure, and it's all based upon the results from the studies that
No, I'm not talking procedure. What I'm talking about is the discharge limits. This thing is about discharge limits, that they want the city to draw up this regulation governing discharge limits. I mean, this is something coming from the state. Henry, do you know anything about this?
Okay, if I understand this correctly, it's the discharge limits into our sewer system.
correct. It's not what we're discharging. It's what is
This is what's
discharged into
coming
our system.
into it, not the outgo. So, all right, that makes more sense then.
Yeah, so it's customized because everyone's got a different type of treatment system.
Oh, yeah,
Different
because
capabilities.
Your industrial base is going to be different everywhere.
Yes.
But I mean, the way this thing reads, it's like, we have to come up with our own stuff. All right, that's the only question I had.
Whew.
I move to approve resolution number 2277.
Mayor, I have a question.
For Commissioner Smith, go ahead.
Candace, why was the benzene increase so high to 7.4?
I guess we're allowed our tolerance for that specific analyte. It proved that we can tolerate more.
What impact does that have on the environment? and health. Benzene doesn't?
It should not have, the whole point of local limits is so that it will not affect what we're discharging. And it's all based on percent removal efficiencies, and apparently we're very efficient with removing benzene, so they were able to grant industrial users a higher amount.
Could we find out why we had a higher? I'm a curiosity. I'm not into science much. I'm fascinated why
Sure.
we.
I'm afraid I can't answer that, but can we make that an action item and get back to you on it?
Yeah, or just put in the city manager report. I'm fine.
And she can, and environmental services can generate that. I think the point is, again, is that what we're discharging into the environment will meet all environmental standards. It's just that our treatment plan has the capability of taking more of that substance out of the flow than than previous studies showed.
Sure. I got it from the, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I did have a motion and I hadn't yet heard a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much for helping, Kansas. Next up is item number 9.
Good evening. This item is a second reading on a proposed sewer rate increase. The proposal is for a 10% rate increase effective after October 1 of 2020, and for the next 2 fiscal years in the amount of 10% a year, which would be a total of 30% over a 3-year period, actually a little higher based on compounding. Originally, a 25% rate increase was projected for 10/1 of 19, but that rate increase was delayed because it was not needed at the time. The last rate increase was in 2007. So it's been about 13 years since we've increased revenue in the sewer fund. We did adjust rates about 3 years ago to create better equity between customer bases. But that rate adjustment, the restructuring, did not increase revenue to the sewer fund. It only changed the rates. The rates dropped a little for lower users and increased a little for higher users. Why are we asking for a rate increase? Well, over about the last 10 years, wastewater fund has been undergoing major construction projects to the tune of about $180,000, $180 million, $180 million, which affected our collection system, our treatment system, and discharge system. And now those projects, which were funded by borrowing, the borrowing is now kicking in. So we will have an increased debt service that needs to be funded. The rates are being set for 3 years. However, we will revisit the rates twice a year, every year for the next 3 years during the CIP and during the annual budget process. So if it does occur that we do not need a rate increase in any future year, the City Commission would have the option to reduce the rates. Now, based on current projections, staff is pretty confident that the system will need these rate increases over the next 3 years. A question was asked at the first reading, well, what if we don't do this? Well, in the short run, it's very possible, if not probable, the first year we may not meet our debt coverage ratio that's required by our lender, which is the state of Florida. Projections indicate very tight margin for the first year. So doing a 0 in the first year would be it could be a problem meeting our coverage ratio. If we did something less than 10%, we might be able to meet our coverage ratio, but then that would snowball into future years. So, for example, if we did a 5% rate increase this year, we'd be proposing a 15% rate increase next year. So the proposal to the commission tonight is just to have an even 10% a year for the next 3 years. The last item, I did pull the rate comparison 3 years ago, and the city's rates are very comparable to surrounding cities. We're a little bit higher on the low end, which means lower consumers pay a little more in Largo than other systems, which is really a philosophy of setting rates. But on the middle and the higher ends, the city's rates are much lower, and this was 3 years ago, much lower than surrounding communities. So we feel we have an excellent value, and this has just been discussed. We do a good job of keeping the environment safe, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Ordinance number 2020-47, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending the City of Largo Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Article 2, Division 3, Sections 23-84, to revise certain wastewater rates, providing for the effective date of the new rates, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any public input on this?
Yes, I have 4 emails that have come in on the public comment at largo.com. First is Patrick Koenig, and he writes, as no decision is forthcoming at this time, read the hearing, I submit my residential voter taxpayer's opinion here. Shoving a 30% rate increase at the end of 3 years down the throats of its fiscally challenged population, no. Any City of Largo Commission member that green lights this proposal shall be on notice come re-election time. While the memory of this proposed action may immediately fade, a not so subtle reminder will be brought to light during the re-election period: accountability. This is not the time to increase an overwhelmingly stressed, financially devastated population. I live and work every day servicing my community of all ages. I can reassure you, based off of general conversations over the past 5+ months, that people are fed up and reaching tipping point levels of frustration. Having another unneeded expense added to their strained family budgets is nothing short of misguided bureaucratic impudence. Tell those making this ridiculous request to go back to the drawing board, tighten their belts, and find a solution. Moving forward to do more with less, just as our City of Largo residents have had to do over these many months, and will have to do so moving forward. Not looking for a handout or even a hand up, just stop putting the boot to the neck of our citizens during the worst economic impact on record. Next is Kimberly Jolie. To the City of Largo Commissioners, please vote no on increasing the sewer rate. Residents are working hard to overcome the economic impact from the COVID-19 virus and all that it has entailed as a community. My family cannot afford yet another cost of living increase, especially at this time. Thank you for your consideration. Next is Bridget Brown. My name is Bridget Brown, and I reside on Fay Avenue. I've resided in Largo since 2013, and I work for the federal government as a registered nurse. I observed my water bill of $248.99, which I happily pay to receive wonderful services the city provides. I am against the 3-year sewer rate increase to fund capital construction costs if this does not also go toward repaving the roads. In this article, Raising Roads Likely to Impact Sewers, by Teresa Java, written July 15th, 2020, miles away in another city of Florida, Key Largo, this city is also reviewing a plan regarding sewer costs for neighborhoods due to the sea level rise and anticipate problems with the infrastructure. I do agree to flood-proof neighborhoods, cover stormwater drainage, provide appropriate street filtering for sprinkler and rainwater runoff, filter debris, continue to have the street sweeper attend to neighborhood roads, and also repave the roads of King Grove subdivision. Again, please repave the King Grove subdivision when the sewer project does take place. If possible, the city can ask a new graduate or volunteer to file for flood mitigation grants and the financial woes not be hit with an increase to the citizens of Largo. During this pandemic and COVID-19 time period, citizens are asked to stay home, limit exposure to others, and budget. Please consider the long-term financial burden of increasing the 3-year increase in sewer rates and vote yes to an increase with supportive roadway infrastructure by also repaving roads in the city of Largo. Thank you again for including its citizens within the process of improvement in the long-term care and development of the city of Largo. Last is from James Moran, and he writes, I have several problems with this rate increase. You send this on a water bill with very little information on what the money will be used for or if it is necessary. I understand more info could come later. If this is necessary, why do we as homeowners have to foot the bill for such a large increase over such a short period of time? Why doesn't the city sell bonds for this construction over a longer period of time? Interest is cheap these days. You attempt to pass this during a pandemic without normal public input, maybe. Yeah, you're allowing email, but are you reading them really? Parentheses, kind of fishy. This construction should be postponed until after the pandemic due to improper public input alone. This is a large increase for a 3-year period. A 30% increase in 3 years is a lot. Other than this, I know nothing about what you're trying to do, and you should have had a website on the water bill that explained what this is all about. That's all the public input.
May I comment on some of those comments?
Please do. I was making sure I was unmuted.
Okay, a couple things. The capital projects that we borrowed the money for, and we did borrow money. We are not funding, it's $130 million of capital projects, a part of which is actually still under construction. But we did not fund these with this rate increase. As a point of comparison, the sewer fund, the entire sewer fund revenue stream for the whole year is about $20 million. That's the total of all the charges and other revenues that the sewer fund receives. So $20 million to pay $130 million of capital with a $20 million revenue stream would just be impossible. And just as an example, we went to the state, we looked at several different borrowing scenarios. We did extreme due diligence. We selected the state loan program for wastewater projects, which has an interest rate approaching 0%. We've taken loans in several different pieces. We call them tranches. And the first tranche was a little over 1%, but the last tranche was almost at 0%. So I'd like to assure everyone, we have found and utilized a very economical borrowing source to pay for this $130 million of capital projects. Now, when the last project is finished, I think it'll be next year, total debt service on the borrowing will be about $8 million a year. And that's over a 20-year period. The state would not go longer than 20 years. So $8 million, again, compared to a $20 million revenue stream, it would be virtually impossible, and I'm just going to say impossible, to cut expenses out of a $20 million system to find $8 million for this additional debt service, which again has been projected for years. Unfortunately, you know, COVID came along at the wrong time, and the construction is either done or almost done. And so the debt payments will start, have started on the first part, and will start on the last part very soon. We have not had a rate increase since 2007. 2007. I don't know any other service out there that is being provided at the same charge as it was back in 2007. So during the recession, the Great Recession, environmental services worked tirelessly to lower costs. They went 3 years without raises. They looked at every efficiency improvement possible. And that's one of the reasons we were able to keep rates the same since 2007. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Finger.
Director Adams, I think you just answered one of my questions, which was how long have we been considering this rate increase? And then my second question was, did we discuss at the last time at our first reading an approximate cost? I don't know if there's a way for us to do that, but how much the increase may be? Is there a way for us to do that? To how much of a cost? Like how much would it impact each resident?
Yeah, our sewer rates do go up, do increase based on water consumption. So everybody's sewer bill is going to be a little different. But just for example, right now, a person that uses 5,000 gallons, a single family resident, a normal resident that uses 5,000 gallons of water a month, pays a total sewer bill of $30.30. Now, I know people get utility bills. I need to mention, as I did last time, when a person looks at their utility bill, it's for a 2-month period. 99 out of 100 people do not know that. And so they'll look at a $200 bill and say, oh, I'm paying $200 a month. And that is not true. A $200 a month, $200 utility bill is $100 a month. So that's the first thing. Second thing, the utility bill includes water, which is billed through Pinellas County. It also includes refuse and stormwater. And if people have reclaimed water, that's on that bill too. But a person, even a single family person using the maximum consumption that we charge for, which is 10,000 gallons a month, is paying $41.80 a month for sewer. And again, looking at some of these surrounding utilities, and this is a 3-year-old survey. A 3-year-old survey. Right now, the charge for 10,000 gallons a month, single family, is $41.80 1 month. In the city of Clearwater, I'm not picking on Clearwater. I'm just saying, here's a comparable, $89.20. So it's over double what the cost of the city of Largo's is. Dunedin is $68.18. Pinellas County is $61.66. The city of Largo's sewer rates have been and will be, even after this increase, very comparable and usually lower than most other surrounding communities. And that's due to the hard work of people, environmental services, trying to keep things economical.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
And Mayor, may I?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Kim, would you, I don't know how this would work, but I know this is being recorded, and I don't know that you necessarily need to do this, but would we be able to send maybe at least the residents that emailed us, can we send them a clip of just this section? We don't need to send them a clip of the whole meeting. And, you know, because I believe, Kim, that you did a fantastic job of explaining the need for this increase. And I think it would answer a lot of the questions that those residents had and do have. And I also, in particular, would like to send it to the resident that accused us of being a little shady and not reading their emails. So, because, you know, I pride ourselves on doing a fantastic job of being above on everything that we do. So I take a little bit of offense to that personally. But regardless of that, I would like to make sure that those residents and at least have an explanation and kind of a response to their email, if that's possible.
Mayor, I've got something.
Thank you. And Commissioner Kara.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, you know, this is in keeping with our stated goals and objectives of investing in infrastructure projects, improving water quality. These are not projects that we just, you know, pulled out of a hat here and decided we need to raise money and do. This is part of our long-term strategic planning. This goes hand in hand with the League of Cities, water quality issues and improvements and sustainability and everything else. So there were some great suggestions in those emails, one of which had to do with coordinating these kind of projects with repaving projects and so forth. And I think I think we're doing that, and I think we should always remember that people are paying attention to those sort of things. But I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this is a plan that we've had in place for a while. And I think Mr. Adams did an excellent job explaining. The easy assumption is that when you see those kind of rate increases, that it's going to be off your total utility bill. I think most people, or many people, jump to that conclusion. And so I think what you've done, Kim, in explaining it is going to go a long way. Is everybody going to be happy? No. But is this necessary to make sure we don't have overflows and we don't find ourselves in a situation with crumbling infrastructure? I think it's absolutely necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. I did have Commissioner Holmes, go ahead.
A couple of points. We had several hearings on this. I think Henry, we started this, I want to say 5 years ago, something like that. I remember we had multiple public hearings on this, so that, citizenry had ample time to come in and address us on this. Kim, do you know if the county is raising the water rate?
I'm pretty sure they are. And this is the first time that we've proposed a multiple year increase. The county always proposes multiple year increases. So we use them kind of as an example. They tend to usually increase them 3 to 4 to 5% a year. So they do, more frequent lower increases, typically.
Yeah, because I was asked over the weekend not to raise their water rate. And I said, we don't raise the water rate. That's county. We're strictly the sewer and solid waste and things like that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I had a question, and maybe Mr. Schubert could answer this, just kind of for the folks that are listening, hopefully. Where can somebody get information on the wet weather project and the work that's been done and the work that's still to be done?
Yeah, that information is on our website, largo.com. And all of our, there's information out there on all of our major capital projects.
And that, does that have the money spent, the numbers as well on those, or just kind of outlines the project?
I believe it includes the money as well. And as Mr. Adams said, we're making significant investments in our wastewater system. So yes, it is a significant amount of money, and the dollars are identified with each of those projects.
And to touch on one of the comments was concerning roadways, and certainly there's been a greater focus on repaving and taking care of roadways and fixing sidewalk gaps in our city in the last 4 or 5 years than there has been in a long time. So could we take a look at Keene Grove and see where that neighborhood is on our out schedule as far as how those roads are graded and when we might be doing some work out there, and let us know as well, please.
Yes, we will definitely do that. And I think that's an area we do better than a lot of other local governments. We like to just dig once. So whenever we do a sewer project, we're looking at, or a road project, we're looking at the other infrastructure needs as well, so we can coordinate things. That's why sometimes, in particular, some of our road projects will take a little longer than you might think, because we're taking care of the sewer lines, county's taking care of the water lines, et cetera, all at the same time. So yes, we will look at those roads.
Woody, got one more question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Holmes.
Kim, what is the lowest sewer rate you can get? Let's say you got a family and they use just 1,000 gallons a billing cycle. I mean, they bathe in their swimming pool or whatever. What's the lowest rate?
That would be about $21 a month if they just used 1,000 gallons.
All right, so $21 a month. So you're talking $2 per month difference. Is this rate, this 10%, is this compounded?
It will be.
Year?
Yes, it will.
It will be compounded.
So in the third year, if you look at the 3 years combined, it's probably more like a 33% over that 3-year period. And again, originally we'd projected this years ago to have one implement one 25% rate increase, 10/1 of 19. That's been in our CIP plans for years. And again, because of the COVID situation, city manager was trying to spread this out. So the 10% a year is a spread from the original proposal, the original projection, which would have been 25% all at one time. That 25% would have actually raised a little bit more money than the 3/10s because it would have been done 3 years early. And we'd have had a compounding effect there too. So for the average person, yeah, it's $2, $3, $4 a month. Again, the highest consumer now with 10,000 gallons is paying $41.80 a month. Right.
Okay.
Now.
All right. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question.
Commissioner Smith.
I voted against this the first time, and I'm still going to vote no this time. My issue is the timing. I get Kim and city manager, you guys worked with the 10% each across the board. In my heart, I just can't at this moment with citizens, what they're going through, support this at this time. I also have some concerns with the 3-year. I understand, Director Adams, what you're saying about we'll talk about it every couple years, but I have a hard time wrapping. I have concerns with the 3-year passing it on one vote. And that's, I can't vote on yes on this one tonight. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, one more comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Henry, when we reach out to those residents, I'm sure you guys are well aware of this, but I'm just pulled up the City of Largo's website, and there's actually a link on the wastewater rate increase, and it goes over the why, the how, the when, everything is on there. So can we add that to the information, the clip of this video and some other things when we reach out? Thank you.
Yes, certainly.
And I would like to comment on that. We could have stuffed that into the utility bills. Number one, it would have cost a lot more money than putting it on the website. Number two, I'm being very honest with you, nobody looks at those stuffers. Nobody. I talked to so many people, and this year we actually did it different. We did, which is the first time we've done this. We actually put the announcement of the rate increase on the bill. Normally we do a stuffer, but that was much more prominent, putting it on the bill itself than adding a stuffer. And we got as much information as we could on the bill itself. We just couldn't put any more on there, which is why we put it on the website.
Did that notice on the bill itself have the website? I didn't look, like you said, I didn't look at it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
I can't recall.
I have a question.
Commissioner Hulk, Vice Mayor Hulk.
I have a question. Yeah. Mr. Adams, so the last increase was supposed to be like around 2007, 2008, you said? Yes. So was that not done because of the Great Depression? Because when we hit that low, so is that why that was put kind of on a back burner, the increase?
Well, it's really two things. One, with the recession going on, environmental services was working hard, just like everybody in the whole city was working hard to try to be more efficient. So that was number one. Number two, we didn't have as many capital costs. So we weren't trying to fund a lot of borrowing and, so a lot of that stopped as well. But at the same time, we were working, with the consent order, with the DEP. And so everybody knew, and it's like Commissioner Holmes said, every borrowing we did, which we had several tranches, was an ordinance. The borrowing was done by an ordinance, which required 2 readings. And every time we borrowed money, we talked about having to pay it back. So we can't borrow money and not pay it back. And there were numerous meetings, and not just public meetings with the ordinance, but again, every year through the CIP, the borrowing was mentioned. Every year through the annual budget, the borrowing was mentioned. So twice a year, we revise all our projections, and we bring that to the city commission, and we discuss our projections and what that's going to do to rates. So we've been projecting needing this rate based on the debt service,
several years, a long time. So it's fair to say then that since we did back off back in 2007, 2008 on that rate, which was, you said 25%, correct?
Yes, we were going to do
it. Okay. So now we're looking at 10% over the next 3 years, and none of us know what our future holds, but these loans are real and they do have to be paid. So I'm total agreement with going forward with this rate increase, because as you said, we have not had one since 2007. We are still going to be relatively a lot lower than our neighboring cities, and this is something to me that we really don't have a choice but to do this, and while it is minimal, and hope that our future looks a little brighter in the next coming years. So I thank you for your work, because I know that you really work hard to make sure that the loans that the city takes out, that we are able to repay them. And I just want to thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I thank you, Director Adams. The transparency, yes, I agree. Actually, because you guys changed it without the stuffer, I got more input and comments because of the box you guys put on there. And to note it didn't have the website on there. So that's one thing.
We can do that next time. We will do that next time.
Please. And I understand it was kind of more of, we're pushing because of this consent agreement with the state. Have you reached out to the state? You said we borrowed from the state, to ask them, with everybody with COVID that's happening, they're giving people more time. Are they willing to work with the city?
We have not reached out to them. They have not offered. The one thing I could say is every time we repay a loan, it's relent right away. So it's a revolving loan fund. So it's not, it's not going in a bank somewhere. It's going back in the ground. And we're actually probably going to borrow more from the SRF over the next few years. Who knows? But if we don't repay our loans, then other communities can't borrow the money. And so again, it becomes a snowball.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Nah, just one final comment. This is not a tax increase. This is a user fee.
Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2020-47 on second and final reader.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Next up is item number 10.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This item and the next two on the agenda are ordinances necessary to adopt the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan. This ordinance adopts the plan that was presented to you at the June 6th work session. The Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan activates the last of three major activity centers in Largo and portions of two multimodal corridors in order to promote redevelopment, infill, and revitalization through the implementation of land use strategies for mixed use and multimodal transportation and other community improvements in the approximately 880-acre area centered at US 19 and Roosevelt Boulevard. With me this evening are Jared Snyder and Hannah Schaefer from Kimley Horn and Associates, our planning consulting team that helped to develop the plan. They're going to give you a brief overview of the plan process, vision, objectives, and recommendations. But before I hand it off to them, I want to point out that there was a significant community engagement effort throughout this planning process that helps develop the strategies for this special area plan. This included state and local agency meetings, several stakeholder meetings and interviews, roundtables, a community forum at the Pinellas Technical College, ongoing activity through our website, blogs, video blogs, and online survey, and opportunities for the community to comment. The plan was circulated to about 1,000 individuals via an email list that was assembled throughout the planning process, and more than 2,100 public notices were mailed out to the affected property owners and residents. And despite the pandemic, more than 30 individuals attended our planning board public hearing on August 6th. The final draft was reviewed by our city Community Development Advisory Board on May 18th, 2020, and recommended for approval. Subsequently, the Planning Board unanimously recommended approval at their August 6, 2020 meeting. At this time, I would like to hand it off to Mr. Schneider, and then afterwards, myself and his team are prepared to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for having us tonight. That was a good intro. So I'm going to turn over to the purpose. Rick hit on that pretty well. We're designating an activity center and two multimodal corridors, which is through the Forward Pinellas plan that changes to the countywide plan. Really looking at expanding transportation options and developing an identity in this area. So I'm going to go over the purpose very quickly and then talk to you a little bit about what we heard in the recommendation, as Rick mentioned. So you're all familiar with this area. We're encapsulating kind of the East Bay Drive, Roosevelt Boulevard, in the US 19 area, all the way to the east to Tech Data area. This is a map graphically showing the activity center in the multimodal corridor. So around 500 acres for the activity center, 75% of which is in the city of Largo. And then the two multimodal corridors are in your orange there, and those are around 456 acres, 355 of which are in the city of Largo. So really this starts from, Largo has been doing a lot of good planning since 2004 in this area. So as Rick mentioned, this is the last of 3 activity centers. And so there's been a lot of local planning going on, and this fits in again with Forward Pinellas' countywide plan. So you have to go through the process to change the countywide land use plan. And this is kind of shown as well as the vision plan here in the middle of the screen. Also, I'd like to note, this is really the first plan that seeks to implement the Pinellas Gateway Master Plan that was developed through last year. So City of Largo, St. Pete, Pinellas County, and Pinellas Park were involved in that planning effort. So there's been a lot that's been going on over the years. So just real briefly, what we heard, as Rick mentioned, we had a community forum in November 6th of 2019. That seems like 2 years ago. We've had stakeholder meetings throughout the process and a pretty robust online survey. So a lot of what we heard from the community was talking about creating a place or a destination. And I showed that map in the first slide, and really this area is the center of St. Pete Clearwater International Airport. We've got Clearwater nearby, the beaches. We've got this is the gateway to the downtown city of Largo, as well as Tampa on the east. So it's really a center place, but people really talked about creating a place and having a destination. So to dovetail on that, some of the objectives are really encouraging economic development, creating enhancing public spaces, and creating multimodal transportation network options. We heard a little bit about that in the previous presentation. So I'm going to go through some of the priorities that we talked about or that we heard through the recommendation types, which are multimodal transportation, sustainability and resiliency, and then land use and housing. So real quickly on the transportation piece, we've talked about creating a connected multimodal street network, and City of Largo has done a lot with the community streets in the past. So it's really kind of creating more options in the area. connecting the trails within the area as well as improvements on US 19, which the state is looking at right now, and then East Bay Drive and Roosevelt Boulevard. Some of the opportunities we see and talk to the Florida Department of Transportation, who are a little bit more open to this, is really, you look at these pictures now, and this is what you see at US 19 and Roosevelt. It's just not a very welcoming environment. So the FDOT's got a couple of examples where they've been a little bit more encouraging or a little bit more have backed improvements under underpasses. So that's something that we've talked to them about, and that's a recommendation to continue it. So here's some pictures of what it could look like. So again, we talked to the Florida Department of Transportation, and they're more supportive of these type of improvements. Really big is Pinellas County, the connection of the Duke Energy Trail going across Roosevelt Boulevard. So the picture on your right is looking north. So that's actually in their 5-year work program and will be constructed within the next 5 years. So that's going to be huge. And again, it's really trying to create a place or a destination as you come into this area. This is the front doorstep of the city of Largo. So a lot of our recommendations are dovetailing off of what's already being done by Pinellas County and creating a destination and telling folks that you're coming into a different place. Infrastructure, sustainability, resiliency is something we talked a lot about. So the improvements to the Long Branch. And some of these I'd like to say are short-term and some are long-term as well. This is a long-term vision plan as well. But we did talk about adding more parks and green spaces along with these street improvements. So one of the biggest changes or recommendations is the land use and housing piece. So along with it, within the area, our development standards. And what we've got are 3 different levels. In kind of this purple area, we have transit scale, which is the more intense development. And then the urban scale and the pink around it steps down a little bit. And then the orange is the multimodal corridor. So again, consistent with what Fort Pinellas is doing, we're encouraging the intensity along the main corridors, dovetailing with transit improvements. Roosevelt Boulevard really is something we talked a lot about, changing that character and creating transit improvements. So the land use recommendations go through building form, how a building fits on the site, what it looks like from the public realm perspective, where the streets outside those buildings, and then the parking regulations as well. So I do want to note that this is just for new development or redevelopment. A lot of development's happening in the area, so this is getting out ahead of it and just really trying to encourage the vision that we're trying to achieve here. So this gets into a little bit more of the specifics. The major activity center, again, it's the higher intensity of the uses right there at US 19 and Roosevelt East Bay, and the major activity center steps down. It's a little bit more intense than the multimodal corridor, and then the multimodal corridor is around 20 dwelling units per acre, so it's the lowest of the 3. And what we're doing here is setting a base of density intensity, the number of homes or commercial that you can have in an area, but then you can apply for increases based on providing sustainable building practices or affordable housing. And again, I want to note, we talked a little bit about this, affordable housing, we're saying 80% of area median income or lower, or you could get the incentive, the increase from 80 to 120%. And a lot of times that's our teachers, our police, or fire. So this isn't low income housing. This is a mixture of housing that really we're focused on in the county and we're seeing in Florida and nationally. This is just an example of catalytic sites. We looked at what are some of those big, big land areas right now or parcels of land and looking at how these standards might apply. So this is looking at US 19 and East Bay Drive. And really, again, what we tried to look at is how do you increase the intensities along the main corridors and really provide access to transit. And we did talk about mobile home parks and preserving the single family there. And again, a lot of this is a long-term vision. So over time, we're trying to get out ahead of it. And we're not, this is for new development or redevelopment, the standards that are in place here. So really trying to provide options for a mix of uses in this area. So again, the top recommendations, and staff is going to be presenting a little bit of this later on. Some of the other agenda items is amending the comprehensive plan. And that goes along with eventually going to Fort Pinellas for the countywide rules changes, updating the CDC to include new design standards, so as new development or redevelopment occurs. And then we hit on this again, improving the US 19 overpass. So that's going to be a continued discussion with Florida Department of Transportation, improving Roosevelt Boulevard as well, and looking at those transit improvements. And again, there's some low-hanging fruit. We felt like constructing some of the public art in the area, as you come into this area, that you're in a different place. Lastly, we'll be collaborating with Pinellas County. As I mentioned, some of this area, around 25%, is within the Pinellas County jurisdiction. So here we are today, and we've got a number of steps going through Fort Pinellas, and then through the second hearing through the end of the year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to any questions.
Ordinance number 2020-42, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, adopting the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan, creating overlay districts which allow for additional density and intensity and design standards, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any citizens comment?
I have none.
Okay, any questions from the commission? Commissioner Smith.
I would just for those people at home, this is a long-term plan for that area. So it's not something that's going to happen, tomorrow or in 2 years. It's a 10-year plan. I also like that it's tied in with the Gateway plan, working with that and what we're doing there with Fort Pinellas and the other entities is, I think is a good thing. I really do like the FDOT working with them to do the lighting under the bridge and the buffers, the buffer areas, because I think a lot of that could be improved and aesthetically pleasing for the citizens and the drivers, the commuters. I really like that. Can you explain a little bit more on I saw in there the LEED, if you're a LEED certified, you can get more intensity. I think I saw, and the affordability a little bit. Can you give us a little bit more information about that for development?
Good question, Commissioner Smith. Really, we're looking at really providing a base, and to get to the highest level increase, you'd have to provide ranges, and it's not just one. So you could do one example down here in the bullet. I know it's in small print. You could get 20 dwelling units per acre, an increase for providing 80% below the median income AMI, and then 10 dwelling units for the 80 to 120, and then 10 for National Green Building Standards. So again, we're trying to provide some options there, and not necessarily saying you just do one of them. So that's what we were trying to do there, and set the base at a reasonable level.
Okay,
if I could add,
go ahead.
If I could add to that, so in terms of leadership in energy efficient design and National Green Build certification or National Green Build standards, our objective was to incorporate some of our sustainability goals into this plan. And I think this is a great opportunity to really test out some best practices by incentivizing new development to incorporate these green building practices into their development, their building structures. So these are different third-party certifications that have a ranking system, and they have to be verified. And so they rate from bronze, silver, gold, platinum, depending on the types of technologies and building materials they incorporate and how energy efficient ultimately the final construction is. So if we can encourage that, certainly that comes at a cost to private developers. And so to offset that, increased density and intensity should make that a more desirable option for those developments.
Thank you. I had a question, since we're talking about the LEED certification. Obviously, well, I think maybe not so obvious. Most of those certifications take place after the construction's done. How would we be able to allow for the higher density and then assure that the LEED certification or the National Green Building certification would be met at the completion of the project.
Right. So some of those exact details we'll be working through with implementation, but ideally it would be through the site plan review process and when they submit their building permits. So they would come to us, the planning division, with a site plan. They would let us know that they want to take part in the program. We would discuss, what type of certification that they're going to achieve, and then what the equivalent density intensity bonus would be. And then through that, they would have to submit building permits that reflect those the criteria, in addition to third-party verification through the LEED or National Green Building program. So they would have to build to those specifications, otherwise they would not be allowed to have the density that would be afforded to them. Okay. Just a comment on that density bonus allowance, and I mentioned this for some of the other activity centers, and I'm all for giving a potential density bonus for building the LEED certification or National Green Building certification. I'm fine with allowing for increased density, and I'm supportive giving increased density for incorporating affordable or workforce housing. But I think that there may be some other things that we could incentivize as well. Some stuff like mixed use or incorporation of public parking deck or something like that. So I think when we do make the amendments to the Code of Ordinances or whatever, the comprehensive development plan, I think we should think about what else we might want to incentivize in this activity center, because we run into some challenges in some of the other areas of the city where the only incentive is affordable housing, and we've lost some developers because they didn't want to build affordable housing. Mm-hmm. And maybe in the end that's fine and that's good for our city, but I think that we should incentivize other things as well. Absolutely. I'm very excited about this opportunity to pilot some new programs that may be applicable elsewhere. What I didn't mention, and in this slide at the bottom, it does say, LEED National Green Building, and then it says other comparable green building program. So what we're exploring is once the plan's adopted, we still have to adopt standards to implement. So we're working on that now and looking at other cities and what they're doing. There are other examples of cities that have implemented these types of programs. But we're looking at kind of a third option that would be some kind of a menu option of different sustainable practices that are mentioned in our sustainability plan, like providing electrical vehicle charging stations and maybe alternative energy production. So we're looking at some kind of a menu option also that would be a possible alternative to these big green building third-party programs that are out there. Right. I think that's a great idea. That's great. I'm happy to hear that. Any other questions?
Mayor?
Commissioner Carroll.
Yeah, we talked about this during the last presentation and using your words that this area would be the doorstep to Largo, the front doorstep. I'm just wondering, with the gathering spaces and the public art and green space and parks and so forth, what are we doing to address the issues caused by the existence of safe harbor at our front doorstep, and the public safety needs associated with like pedestrian crashes, things like that, the general feeling of safety and security in that area. Have we talked about that at all?
Yeah, that's really what we were trying to hit on with Roosevelt Boulevard, improving that. Obviously, that's a state facility, but I think as you bring more people in that area, as you bring more kind of landscaping into that area, more improvements into that area, we like to say there's more eyes on the street as well. So it's going to take some time, but that's definitely kind of one of the modes, is to just get some of those improvements in that area. And
I understand that, but frankly, I'm just wondering what the long-term projections are for the existence of safe harbor in that location. Sure. Because landscaping and infrastructure investments aren't going to help us if we have inebriated people stumbling out onto the street.
Right.
So, hardly a week goes by that I don't get an email or a comment from a citizen who lives in that area about panhandling and people passed out on benches and that they don't feel safe. So I just wonder if there's actually been any discussion with the county about, we're talking about a 10-year plan here,
right,
or longer. What's the 10-year plan for Safe Harbor? Is it going to stay where it is? Are there other options? I think you get my drift on this.
Right.
Yes, Commissioner Carroll, if I might, after the work session, we took into consideration some of these similar comments I think that you had and other commissioners had mentioned, and myself, I took it upon myself to meet with our homeless task force, which is made up of community development, housing staff, police department staff. I met particularly with Errol Woodard from our housing, as well as Officer Boutran, who's a community liaison, and others. And we discussed, safety along US 19 and Roosevelt, and how this plan could potentially, what's the vision of the plan, and as redevelopment occurs, improving sidewalks, crosswalks, lighting. Those are physical infrastructure improvements that should improve safety in general. FDOT, we know, is looking at Roosevelt Boulevard for resurfacing within the next 3 to 6 years, and so things like restriping, evaluating speed limits, signage, and traffic control devices could help with some of that safety concern in the roadway. But even more so, and I think Mr. Schneider had mentioned it, kind of suggested that with redevelopment over time and more investment, this should improve the situation, because the investment made will incentivize owners, to better manage property and maintain the property. We've seen through our code enforcement activities how some properties have cut back vegetation and fixed broken fences and things that have deterred places where in the past we've known that homeless persons would camp out or participate in other activities. Certainly development of some of these vacant lots along the corridor will definitely deter homeless activities. One, for example, the new Porsche dealership on US 19, that was a vacant property, heavily wooded, and there were known issues out there that have, through my discussions with PD, that they had noted it seems to have lessened. But certainly other considerations at the site plan review process is crime prevention through design, what we refer to as SEPTED, that the city already implements to a certain extent with new development, but we could look at other opportunities for enhancing those design methods to make certainly those new spaces safer and less attractive for unwanted activity.
Yeah, I thank you, and I keep bringing that up just so it doesn't get lost in the discussion, because I don't mean to be indelicate, but there's a difference between homelessness and criminal behavior, and we owe it to the citizens who live in that area and people who will develop in that area to make sure they have a safe environment. So I want to have open dialogue and discussion with the county about what they plan to do going, 5 years from now. Will they have outgrown their current location and move maybe to Clearwater or Tarpon Springs? I don't know. But I just want to, I'm not afraid of having this discussion, and I know the rest of the commission's not either. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
I agree with Commissioner Carroll. I'm not a big fan of Safe Harbor. And if we could maybe include the sheriff in what we're talking about here and the county commissioners, I know some of them have seen it with Fort Pinellas, but maybe getting them on board of what we're looking at, and agree with Commissioner Carroll with maybe trying to get what their idea for Safe Harbor's future is. Also, can you talk a little bit about the development and redevelopment? A lot of people are concerned that this is trying to get ahead of development in that area so we don't overdevelop. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we're looking at that through this plan?
Yes. This is a long-term plan. This is a 25-year plus plan. There are opportunities, as Mr. Schneider had pointed out. They did. His team conducted a 10-year forecasting activity, based on market demand and opportunities, and we're seeing both new development in the short term, but potential for the long term. I think that this also dovetails with the opportunity here for US 19 and Roosevelt, which are designated by the county as primary investment corridors. So they're looking for the type of development and density to support that ongoing investment, those public dollars going in to improve transportation, with certainly an eye for enhanced transit. Ford Pinellas and FDOT have an ongoing study for express bus service along US 19, and there is some discussion and analysis on a possible transfer or multimodal station in this area. But redevelopment takes a long time, and some of these properties are newly developed. The Tri-City Plaza, that's going to be there for a long time. But the Catalyst site example that Mr. Schneider had shown, where infill can happen, you have additional out parcels that occur along East Bay Drive that can support the ongoing, vitality of that shopping center and meet the needs of not just this area, but also the larger area. And creating housing opportunities. Redevelopment is not easy because that private investment that's taking place does have to account for, in this area, raising buildings, demolishing outdated infrastructure, and then rebuilding that, and oftentimes to a higher standard. So that does come at a cost. So some of the strategies that we're implementing here are, being able to facilitate that. And you have, of course, the configuration of individual properties that in some cases they need to be acquired, and that takes time and money. But, the plan itself does incorporate protections, so that as we rebuild, adjacent properties are buffered appropriately. We're applying building height caps, which our code doesn't currently have. So limiting height in certain districts. And then also in the standards, we'll be implementing a best practice as recommended by this plan to step back buildings setbacks if they're closer to lower density neighborhoods or uses, to step them back as they the taller the building is.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yeah.
Couple things. Well, first off, the homeless that's a problem, and it's not just exclusively Safe Harbor. Central Park is turning into a magnet for it now. Question number one, Rick, is the plan to build an overpass for the Duke Energy Trail on Roosevelt?
That's a good question. Right now, the county is kicking off their engineering process for the Duke Energy Trail. Currently, they are designing for an at-grade crossing, and as Mr. Schneider had shown in one of the slides, he could pull that. If you could pull that up, is that rendering showing enhanced crossings there, where the Duke Energy Trail will cross. But there has been noted discussion that long-term, an overpass would be ideal. There are constraints there, being a Duke Energy transmission corridor, and other constraints along right away and so forth along the corridor. But as a long-term goal, and the plan does point out, pursuing that in the long term is a safe pedestrian overpass crossing there.
All right. Last question. What is the long-term plan on the mobile home parks. If you go back to your picture you had, I believe there are 3 mobile home parks there.
This one right here, Commissioner Holmes?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's that one. There's
Sure.
3 mobile home parks. There's also a travel park there.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the long-term goal with these mobile home parks? Replace them or what?
Well, there is not an established goal for the mobile home parks. The strategies in this plan will facilitate redevelopment, at the time that, that private property decides that it is, desirable and the appropriate time, per market forces. There are a number of mobile home parks. There's Embassy, there's I think Blue Horizon, La Plaza, they are established and along the corridor.
Mm-hmm.
As we went through this process, the activity center and then the multimodal corridor is intended to address those properties along the frontage and in the immediate area. So rather than leaving them out of the plan altogether, which working with the county and Ford Pinellas staff, they were expressed reluctance to have, areas that were disconnected or discontinued and not having a continuous corridor wouldn't make for good planning. But also, as the area redevelops around them, to ensure that the future opportunities for that property, whether it's 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, or longer, that it will have the same opportunity to redevelop as the properties that are adjacent to it.
Well stated. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think obviously as we looked, the mobile home parks are properties that are relatively high density housing. So we should facilitate good pedestrian access to these and look at it. And if it stays a mobile home park that's kind of affordable, high density housing, that's fine. If it gets redeveloped, then we've already made some investments in better pedestrian connectivity to that residential area. I think it's kind of a win-win.
Mayor, may I?
Yeah, Commissioner Robinson.
Thank you. I just have really one kind of quick question. So first of all, I'd like to say that I'm a big fan of the plan in general. I think, obviously there's been a lot of work put into it, and I appreciate what we've done or what we're looking at doing for sustainability in the area and resiliency in the area. My question, though, in regards to that is some of this area, and I know you do have a map in the resiliency. There is a little section here on sustainability and resiliency. It's like page, I'm not sure. Anyhow, a lot of this is, low-lying areas in once you start getting out towards the bay. I have a concern with, trying to increase density in areas that are low-lying and tend to flood. I'm sure as a developer, they're going to, look at that, but, allowing those densities and uses in those areas that are prone to flooding, to me, sounds like we're not, helping anything out. So I just want to make sure that we're aware of that and maybe revisit that a little bit and see if there's anything we can do to amend that.
Sure. I'll respond to that too. That's well taken, Commissioner Robinson. That's something we talked a lot about. Really, what we tried to do, and that's the rationale for putting the intensity along US 19 or some of the higher level intensity along US 19 East Bay, those 4 quadrants, because that's some of the highest areas in the entire area, and then focusing along the corridor as well. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, you start to get north in here, especially around Long Branch, it starts to get pretty low.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the ordinance number 2020-42 on first reading and transmit the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan to the Countywide Planning Authority and schedule a second reading after reviewed by the CPA.
Second.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is item number 11.
Okay, this is a contingent amendment to effectuate the adoption of the special area plan. This amendment is to the comprehensive plan future land use element and placemaking element, which would incorporate the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan into our comprehensive plan, which is our long-range growth management plan. It makes changes to future land use element policy 1.1.1, adding the 3 overlays into our future land use map categories so that they may be applied to the city's future land use map. It also adds policy 2.2.5 to direct the most intense development to focus on key nodes along Roosevelt Boulevard corridor. And then the placemaking element policy 1.1.8 to replace a reference to Largo Town Center, which was what the intersection of US 19 and Roosevelt was previously called, with the Largo Tri-City Activity Center name. Upon the commission's approval, staff will transmit these proposed text amendments to our comprehensive plan to Florida Department of Economic Opportunity for their review. And we anticipate bringing this back to you for final reading at the December 1st, 2020 commission meeting. Our planning board reviewed and recommended approval on August 6, 2020, and staff recommends approval.
Ordinance number 2020-36, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending the City of Largo Comprehensive Plan to incorporate policies relevant to the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan by amending policy 1.1.1, table flu-1, and adding policy 2.2.5 within the future land use element, amending policy 1.1.8 within the placemaking element, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this?
I have none.
Any questions from the commission?
Yeah, I've got one.
Mr. Holmes.
Why is it that the last ordinance was ordinance number 2020-42 and this one is 2020-36?
I think that just had to do with the order in which we requested it from the city clerk. It just was out of order. I apologize for that.
Not some great conspiracy.
No, sir.
Any other questions?
I move to approve ordinance number 2020-36 on first reading and transmit the amendment to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, Forward Pinellas, and the Countywide Planning Authority for review and schedule a second reading after review.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. And last is item number 12.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Commission. This is the third concurrent item on tonight's agenda related to the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan. The item before you is a large-scale future land use map amendment for property totaling 733 acres within the City of Largo. Large-scale map amendments require a public hearing for the first and second reading. The city is requesting this future land use map amendment, Flume 20-004, to adopt new activity centers and multimodal corridors overlays identified in the Largo Tri-City Special Area Plan, referred to as the plan. This map shows the activity centers in red and the multimodal corridors in gold. The overall plan boundaries include parcels in the City of Largo and unincorporated Pinellas County. However, the subject of Flume 20-004 only pertain to those parcels within the City of Largo's jurisdiction. This includes 101 parcels in the Activity Center overlay and 226 parcels in the Multimodal Corridor overlay. It is important to note parcels in unincorporated Pinellas County that are not included in the overall plan boundaries do not receive the designation or benefits of these new overlays unless the county adopts a plan and those unincorporated parcels are annexed into the city. The subject Flume 20-004 will adopt 3 new overlays related to the plan. Those overlays include the transit core, shown in purple, the urban scale, shown in pink, and the multimodal corridor, shown in gold. Both the transit core scale and the urban scale activity center overlays include a total of 378 acres and are collectively referred to as the Largo Tri-City Activity Center, or LTAC. The multimodal corridor overlay associated with LTAC totals 355 acres. As stated in the introduction, the subject Flume 20-004 includes a total of 733 acres within the City of Largo, and this map exhibit shows how all 3 overlays will be superimposed onto existing Largo future land use map designations. The underlying flumes will not change and will continue to dictate allowable uses for specific properties as well as buffer requirements. Once established in the Comprehensive Development Code, parcels under city jurisdiction will be afforded the new minimum base densities and intensities, and will have the option to take advantage of bonus densities and intensities as we discussed. All properties within the LTAC and associated multimodal corridor are not required or expected to be developed to the maximum allowable densities or intensities. Any new development proposed within the designated overlays will be reviewed and approved by staff during the site plan review process. To reiterate, the intent of the plan and the adoption of Flume 20-004 is to provide more effective land use and development patterns, and where appropriate to include requirements that encourage mixed use, infill, and redevelopment, increase densities and intensities, and provide accessibility to multiple modes of transportation that would make the area more walkable and pedestrian friendly. The proposed Flume 20-004 is consistent with the countywide rules in the land use strategy map shown here, which designates appropriate locations for activity centers and multimodal corridors. The land use strategy map identifies a major activity center shown in the olive green circle, where the 378 acre LTAC overlay is proposed. And it also shows a primary corridor shown in red, where the 355 acre multimodal corridor overlay is proposed. The Flume is required to establish future land use overlays to designate official boundaries for activity centers on the countywide plan map in accordance with section 6.2.1.1 of the countywide plan rules. At this time, staff recommends approval of the Flume 20-004 based on approval of the previous 2 agenda items, which was adoption of the plan and the adoption of the comp plan text amendments. And with these approvals in place, staff found the proposed Flume 20-004 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Largo Comprehensive Plan and the Comprehensive Development Code, Pinellas County-wide plan rules, and Chapter 163 Florida statutes. So we discussed the next steps would be, again, the planning board did approve the future land use map amendment on July 23rd, and staff, if the city commission approves, we'll transmit this. I'm sorry, this is a large scale Flume as a tier 3 amendment. And it will go through the process in that way. So where staff is here, thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions.
Ordinance number 2020-39, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan future land use map designation of the within described tracts of land located along US Highway 19 East, Bay Drive, and Roosevelt Boulevard between Lions Club Road and 49th Street North, Pinellas County, Florida, to add Largo Tri-City Activity Center and Multimodal Corridor as overlays, and amending the city future land use map on file in the office of the city clerk pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 163, Part 2 Florida statutes and the Pinellas Countywide Plan rules, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any citizens comment on this?
I have no citizen comment.
Any questions from the commission? Mr. Carroll.
Not a question, just a comment. Rick and the rest of your team, all of you have done a great job putting this together. There's a lot of information here. I'm proud of your work. I'm proud of the vision, but just know every time we talk about this, I'm going to bring up public safety out there. So excellent work, and I'm really proud of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep bringing it up.
I move to approve ordinance number 2020-39 on first reading and transmit the amendment to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, Forward Pinellas, and the Countywide Planning Authority for review, and schedule a second reading after review.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second, and along the Commissioner Carroll's comments, I would I'm going to ask Gloria to put together a letter asking the county commission what their plans are for Safe Harbor with our plans here, and kind of outlining what we're looking to do for the Gateway area, and just think that that's an integral issue that has to be managed. So see what their plans are. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. I already did that.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to item number 13.
You're on mutt, Susan.
I was going to say, speaking of public safety, here we are tonight. I'm so pleased to come before you this evening with the ratification of the collective bargaining agreement with the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association with the City of Largo, a 3-year agreement beginning October 1st, 2020. This has been an exceptional contract in a lot of ways. It's our first virtual round of negotiations that entered in and began with COVID in April. And we've gotten it done in record time, 5-6 meetings. And I have to give so much credit to the team of PBA and the city. I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce Sasha Lone, who now heads up the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association's organization, and her team, Nick Cusimano, Adam Compton, Amanda Gay, with guest appearances from Mike Bruno and Mike Blickensdorf periodically. And then, of course, the city team, Jeff Undestead was with me at the table, as was Matt DeFiore. And the partnership and collaboration that we had during this process was exceptional. We began the process really far behind our competitors for the talent that we have in our police forces. Before I begin this process, I also want to mention it's been an exceptional environment for the police community in general. There has been so much happening in police work that our group and our officers and sergeants, our lieutenants and majors, deputy chief and chief have handled to make sure our community policing is something that we are so proud of. And the mutual aid we offer our communities has been top notch. We have a top-notch organization. And we have had a lot of competition with, since our last contractual agreement with St. Petersburg, with Clearwater, with PCSO, because their pay ranges were so much greater than our pay ranges. So what this contract addresses and establishes is us being competitive now with those organizations. And that's something that our workforce was keeping the faith in us. They were hoping that we would be able to be competitive. And with this contract, we are competitive. And it is so exciting for us as an organization, because we're in us. The union, the city, we're together. We're in us providing these services and taking care of our employees. So that's something we're very, very proud of. And in addition, our enterprise resource program, we as a city have supported that as an organization. There were certain changes that needed to happen, both in the contract and for our efficient utilization of that technology. So we partnered together. There will be no more pool time, which is, wow, I feel like I'm shaking the foundation of collective bargaining here. We are working collaboratively to use administrative leave when the union and the city, we know that there are obligations they have. We will work collaboratively based on the language in the agreement and make sure that happens using administrative leave. Additionally, the other thing that really is exceptional is being able to introduce percentages for shift differential pay. We used to have a $70 per pay draw for that, for working a certain, off hours, but now we're splitting it into afternoons and midnights, a 5% incentive for working afternoons, and a 7% incentive for working midnights, much more indicative of what the industry is paying and for our evolving workforce as a public safety entity. But with these improvements, staff definitely recommends approval and is here to answer any questions that you might have about the agreement.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, I have one hand up, Mike Blickensdorf. Let me just get him moved over. Okay. Oh, gotta unmute. Okay. Mike, you're on.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Schubert, and staff. My name is Mike Blickensdorf, and I'm a sergeant with the Largo Police Department, as well as the Executive Board Secretary of the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association. Over the last 6 months, the city and PBA have worked collaboratively to reach agreement on a contract that gives our department a competitive advantage in hiring the best and brightest in our market, while also providing our current members a solid sense of security going forward. On behalf of the officers, sergeants, and PBA Executive Board, we would like to thank the Commission for their guidance and Mr. Schubert and Ms. Sins for understanding the importance of this contract and our priorities. For the first time in my 12 years negotiating contracts, we had a chief at the table. Without Chief Undested's recognition of the issues and ability to relay what was needed for an agreement, we feel this would not have gone as smoothly as it did. So Chief, we offer you a big thank you. With the contract soon behind us, we look forward to serving the community proudly and contributing to make Largo the city of choice in the Tampa Bay area. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
I think that was the only one I had.
I have a question.
Commissioner
Susan?
Hall.
Is the SWAT team getting extra money?
Yes, we have a SWAT incentive of 4%. Thank you for bringing that up. That's something that we have had recognized in the IFF contract, but oddly enough, the people going into the actual situation, they've never had an incentive. So they gained a 4% incentive in this contract that is definitely extremely appropriate and in the industry as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carroll.
Yeah, I wondered, Susan, if you could speak to the public at home about, just real quickly, about the fact that our department is accredited.
Excellent. The city of Largo is pleased to be an accredited police department, which has a number of different benchmarks that we meet nationally to make sure that we, just as Mike Blickensdorf was saying, Sergeant Blickensdorf was saying, that we are reflective of best practices industry-wide. So whether that's through professional standards, operationalized in police work, and all the different benchmarks that we need to meet, we meet those and exceed in a lot of areas.
Okay, we sometimes have questions from citizens. This information is all available on the city website, the department's website. But you should, for anyone listening and who has questions about the professional status of our organization, they should take a look at that. You'd be proud of your police department. I know from experience that it's a career. It does the job doesn't rise and set in one particular contract. But I'm looking forward to hearing back from our represented folks that commissioners in other surrounding jurisdictions are hearing, you know, that their officers are leaving their agency and coming to Largo. So I hope that's going to be happening here pretty soon. But I'm very proud of all the work you've done, and I know it was hard work to get to where we are today, and I really appreciate it. Good job, Susan.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I move to ratify the collective bargaining agreement with the Suncoast Police Benevolent Association for a 3-year term beginning October 1st, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a couple seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, everybody, for so much great work done on this. I think it's really good for the city and really good for our police department.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is item number 14.
Shelby and Irvin, can you hear me? You're both muted.
Hello, I was finally able to unmute. Oh, now I have control. Hi, sorry about that. I am Shelby. I am the Assistant Director of Environmental Services, and I will be speaking about item 14. Can you hear me okay? I assume so. So this item is to enter into Amendment 7 of the consent order with Florida Department of Environmental Protection. We are currently operating under Amendment 6. So Amendment 6 had inadvertently removed interim limits for bromodichloromethane, dissolved oxygen, and phosphorus that were established in the 5th Amendment. Amendment 7 restores those interim limits, and it keeps the nitrogen limits that were established in Amendment 6. This amendment also does raise the penalties for sanitary sewer overflows in accordance with the Environmental Litigation Reform Act and House Bill 1091. Can I answer any questions about Amendment 7?
Thank you. Do we have any citizens comment on this?
I have no citizens comment.
Any questions from the commission? Seeing none, I did have one, and this is kind of probably a nitpicky question, but it's somewhere in this agreement, it has the requirement to post the agreement or publish the agreement in the daily newspaper in Pinellas County. I'm not sure we have a daily newspaper in Pinellas County at this point. Go ahead. Yeah, no.
So it's either a daily newspaper or a newspaper of general circulation. And so that would be the Tampa Bay Times.
Okay, yeah, that's the closest we have. But okay, I was concerned about not being able to meet this agreement if we don't have something to put a posting in. Any other questions?
No,
I move
but
to.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
Holmes.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Question?
Thank you. If you have a question, feel free.
No.
Okay, well then I move to approve Amendment 7 to Consent Order OGC number 03-0666 with the Florida Department of Environmental Regulation and authorize the city manager and other city officials to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Was that a nay? Was that a vote in opposition? Okay. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item is item number 15. And Mr. York, you're muted.
Been a while since I've been on, so good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. As part of City Hall project, the city will be utilizing a construction manager at risk, as we have done for most building projects within the city. We created a request for qualification and sent out to construction manager at risk companies. And we were lucky enough to receive 9 outstanding RFQs back from different companies. The city team, which included city manager Henry Schubert, assistant city manager Maggie Pollack, facilities manager Mark Myers, construction project coordinator Robert Burris, and myself, along with John Curran from ASD Sky, went through all 9 applications and selected 4 companies to bring in for interviews. Due to the pandemic, we did those interviews over Zoom, and Biltmore Construction came out #1 ranked company during that interviewing process. So the staff is requesting that the City Commission approve our rankings, and we hope to begin negotiations with Biltmore Construction immediately, and hope to bring the contract back to Commission in the first quarter of FY 2021. Travis Parker is here from Biltmore to give a brief presentation about his company, and we'll be here to answer any questions.
Hey everybody, can you hear me all right? Hello?
Loud and clear. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good. I can't see anybody, but I have my PowerPoint in front of me, so I hope my hair looks good. Just real quickly, we were asked to come out here and talk a little bit about our team and why we think we're special for this job and suited for this. I think the first thing I'd like to say is thank you very much for selecting us and having the confidence in our team to move forward. We look very forward to this project. It's something we've been following for some deal of time. Just to start off a little bit about our firm, we, for those of you who don't know us, we've been a fixture here in the area. We're less than 2 miles from the project site. We're located in Bel Air, right between Clearwater and Largo. We've been in the same facility here since 1954, so we're looking forward to starting our 67th year in business. My grandpa helped start this company back then. He founded it, and then my uncles and my father moved through that. Now we're on to our 3rd generation building throughout the state of Florida. So we really have a lot of community pride in the area. We consider ourselves stakeholders in this project, and we're very excited to get moving forward with it. Not to mention, we do carry a lot of very strong relationships with our local businesses, local subcontractors. So we're going to make sure that they're all part of this project, and we're really keeping the funds for this project within the city of Largo and help spreading that all around. A little bit about our firm. Of course, over 67 years, we've done hundreds of municipal projects, including administrative, office, assembly, city halls, courthouses, you name it, libraries, structured parking. So we're very familiar with this project. We're bringing the same team over that we're currently working with the city of Largo on. We've got a great working relationship going on there, and also with the architect of record, John Curran. I've known John for many, many years. And another little interesting piece to this project is this project showed up in our award and under our major projects list file as actually project number 1000 for us, which marks a major milestone for us as a company as well. We're very proud of that. Very interesting. A little bit about your project. We understand it's very high profile. We're going to be building in a busy environment, very familiar with it. having lived in Florida for so long, graduated from Largo High as well as my brother. So we're very familiar with the area down here. We know we're going to have a lot of residents in the area that we're going to be working around, a lot of businesses we're going to be working around. We know this is going to be a catalyst for the downtown development. We're familiar with some of the other developments that are happening down in this area. We're very excited to be a part of that. And we understand, as we mentioned, the beneficial community impact, which is making sure that we're helping this project be a resource also for the local folks there, for employment, for business opportunities, reaching out to them for all different aspects of the projects, from subcontractors to material suppliers, even to making sure we utilize the local restaurants when we're going out and grabbing lunch between working. Fully understand the interests here. We've got a lot of folks that are going to be interested in this project. Of course, we understand the owner and the departments within the owner that are going to be in the facility. The current and future development that's going to be happening down there, making sure that we're a good neighbor along with the other developers that will be working alongside of us in some of the areas. We've got retail tenants that are coming in. We've got local businesses and local residents, as I mentioned, we need to make sure we take good care of. And it's really for the community. So we're very excited to be part of this process and this project. We also understand your priorities: sustainability, public health and safety, and community pride. We're going to make sure that not only us as a team make sure that we keep those in focus, but that we're also making sure that the other folks on the team and the other individuals working on this project and groups are maintaining that focus as well. A little bit about us as a firm. We really maintain high quality. We expect a high quality product. This plays into all aspects of sustainability, maintenance, and then looking at future needs. So we're going to make sure that we're providing a quality product. We're going to be looking at saving you energy, being sustainable where it's necessary to be sustainable, and spending that money in proper areas, reduce costs and maintenance. Typically for a construction project, of the 100% of the cost of construction, 20% really are the actual construction of the facility. The other 80% are actually the cost of maintaining the facility, the folks that are employed there, the efficiency of their being able to work, the energy savings and the energy consumption. So we're going to be taking a hard look at that and making sure that we interject some of the ideas that we've had from other projects. We're one of the top sustainable builders in the state of Florida. We had the first LEED Platinum municipal project in the state of Florida, and we continue with sustainability as a key mantra along with quality. And this is probably one of the most important aspects of this selection, I think, for us as a team and as a team member, not only on the construction side, but having the relationships with the city of Largo, with the project management team from Largo, with the design team. It allows us to start very quickly and very efficiently to start looking at different scenarios. We understand that there's different sites that are being evaluated. We're eager and excited to get focused on those, to start looking at the economics of those sites and where we see the value in those sites, and being able to bring that information to the team for good use as you work through making that decision. And then in saying that, I think this team has all the ingredients for success. We've got a great deal of trust that's built up. We're very good at communicating. We're very transparent and honest with each other, and we have a lot of respect for each other. And I think having those ingredients with this team are going to be very important as we move forward in construction of the project, also through the design, of course, as well. And then a couple of projects. We love iconic projects. Just wanted to highlight a few of the things that we've done here. Some of the first times with certain systems, structurally glazed systems. This is a school architecture at Florida International University, Eckerd College. Very complex technical system here with the mechanical. This project helped us, this mechanical system helped us obtain a LEED Platinum on this lab project, which is very rare, so very sustainable project. Of course, the City of Largo Library, we're very proud of that project, and it's looking great as well today. And then here's one that we did with the design partner on the team, with John Curran. This is a museum over on the East Coast for transportation. It houses a robotic parking and actually brings you those cool classic cars right front and center to a turntable for you to look at as you're walking through the museum. So with that, we're very excited. We're a proven local partner. We've got great relationships, not only with the city of Largo, but also with the design team and with local subcontractors. We're very familiar with the type of facility the area we'll be working in, and we're sustainable partners, and we're ready to start immediately, Matt. Absolutely, let's get that contract going and start getting some numbers worked up and start rolling up our sleeves and get to work. So with that, just like to thank you again for this opportunity. Really proud to be here tonight, and I'll turn it over for questions and answers.
Thank you. First, we're going to see if we have any public comment on this item.
I have no public comment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parker, for being here with us tonight. Any questions for Matt or Mr. Parker? I think everybody's just excited to get moving forward.
We are too.
I was just going to say, I like the excitement in his voice about the project. So that makes me excited about this moving forward.
We're very excited.
Thank you.
I move to approve the ranking of RFQ number 20-Q-698 construction manager risk for the City Hall project and authorize staff to negotiate with the top ranked firm.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank
Hey,
you very
Mayor.
much.
Thank you very much.
Can I say real quick that Mr. Parker, you could have just said that you graduated from Largo High and you'd have been in. Good to go.
That was one vote.
It would have been 3 at least.
All right. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you. Next item is item number 16.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The purpose of this.
I think we lost Mr. Murrah.
Sorry about that. He's coming back.
All right.
Am I back?
Yeah, welcome back.
Thank you. As I started to say, the purpose of this item is to seek City Commission approval for the award of scope and fee for the final design phase of the lift station floodplain mitigation project to McKim-and-Creed. The city has 51 sanitary sewer lift stations within the wastewater collection system. Many of them are located in low-lying areas, which makes them susceptible to hurricane storm surges and future sea level rise. In order to address these concerns, the Environmental Services and Engineering Services Department began looking at ways to improve the resiliency of these stations. In August of 2019, the City Commission approved the scope and fee for the preliminary engineering portion of the project to McKim-and-Creed. They were tasked to evaluate 4 of the most vulnerable stations and make recommendations on how to mitigate the impact of storm surge and sea level rise. Last month, McKim-and-Creed completed their evaluation and submitted their final report. The recommendations included in the report range from raising critical components of the stations above the 100-year floodplain all the way to complete relocation outside of the floodplain. During the design phase, city staff will work with McKim-and-Creed to determine which recommendations are appropriate for each station and collaborate on the design. City staff has successfully negotiated a scope and fee with McKim-and-Creed for the final design phase in the amount of $399,982. Unfortunately, in order to keep the design costs within budget, we elected to remove the least vulnerable of the 4 stations from the final design phase. But ending on a good note, this project is being considered for a $1.1 million hazard mitigation grant. The grant is funded by FEMA and managed at the state level by FDEP. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this?
No public comment.
Any questions? Commissioner Holmes.
Chuck, this is a budget question. You probably have to get Henry to answer it. We budgeted $400,000. You got available amount 400,000. Expenditure is $399,982. Why
Correct.
the $18? Just, I mean, what's the $18 all about?
That's where their original price for the 4 stations came in at $435,000. When we eliminated one of the stations, that's what they were able to pare the price back to, which was just under the. Why there's an $18 difference? That's something I could probably get from McKim and Creed, but that's where their numbers came in.
Okie doke. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I move to approve award of scope and fee to McKim and Creed for the final design of the lift station floodplain mitigation project in the amount of $399,982 in accordance with RFQ 19-Q-666.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is item number 17.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. This item on the agenda tonight is asking for Commission approval to accept a subrecipient agreement from the Florida Housing Finance Corporation in the amount of $271,425. This is a grant as a pass-through from the Federal CARES Act money to the state, and the state is allocating funding out to the Housing Trust Fund entitlement jurisdictions throughout the state to assist residents with housing and utility assistance. This is directly related to helping people that have been impacted financially by the pandemic. In addition to the request for approval of this agreement tonight, there are a few other items in the motion. Part of these funds in this first round of funding that's coming out is allows us to reimburse the funding we've been using for the last few months from our state housing initiatives program for our current resident assistance program. And so we're requesting authorization tonight to proceed with that reimbursement from these funds, and the additional funds will be reserved for assisting additional residents. And the third item in the motion is authorizing the city manager to approve any additional amendments that come out from Florida Housing Finance Corporation. They are expecting at the state level to do an evaluation at the end of September to determine how much jurisdictions have expended and may allocate additional funds. All funds have to be expended by December 30th. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any citizens comment on this?
I have no citizen comment.
Any questions or comments from the commission? Well, I'm happy to see this. I think this is something that's going to help a lot of people. From my understanding, we're going to need 3 separate motions. Is that correct?
No,
There are 3 separate items.
You can do it all at one because it goes by and. It's all included. Alan, can't you just, seeing as these motions have and in them, I think you can do it all at one time. You're mudded.
Mr. Zemba, you're on mute.
You're still on mute.
There we go.
Wouldn't let me do it at first. You can, if you want, you can combine all 3 motions in one.
Okay. I was going to say we could move forward, and if you start doing this, we're doing something wrong. So, but yeah, we can do one motion with a couple ands.
I move to approve the Coronavirus Relief Fund subrecipient agreement with Florida Housing Finance Corporation in the amount of $271,425. And I move to approve authorization of city staff to proceed with processing reimbursement of the SHIP program from the CRF allocation. And I move to approve authorization for the city manager to execute any amendments to the agreement that do not shift additional cost or liability to the city if requested by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next up is item number 18.
Item number 18 is requesting approval of resolution 2266, and this is the actual implementation or adoption of a policy program for utilization of the coronavirus relief funds that you just approved in the other agreement. So this outlines very similar, we're calling it the same name, Resident Assistance Program, as what we're funding through our state housing program, just for consistency with our residents and marketing efforts and so forth. So these funds would kick in when the other program sunsets on September 30th, and city staff is working on bringing a contract to you in October to enter into a service agreement with a provider that's going to help assist in implementing this program to provide the rent and utility assistance and mortgage assistance as well. The new program does have an expanded dollar amount from the current program. It goes from $4,000 as the maximum up to $8,000. We are seeing people that have had an extended time out of work, and in addition with utility bills and rent, the $4,000 doesn't go past typically about 2 to 3 months worth of assistance right now. The other program also, this new program will also have a streamlined paperwork process under the requirements for the program. So that's another great benefit to it. We are also able to fund some housing counseling services to help people work with their mortgage companies on forbearance proceedings and so forth. And also some emergency repairs and insurance deductibles. And we included this in there, especially we're in the midst of hurricane season. You can only imagine if someone's out of work and gets roof damage during the season, that they may need help with their insurance deductible or those repairs if they've been financially impacted by the pandemic. So those are also eligible items under this new program. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Resolution number 2266, a resolution of the City of Largo, Florida, establishing the City of Largo Coronavirus Relief Fund Resident Assistance Program to aid with housing and utility costs for households financially impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, providing for terms, conditions, policies, and procedures governing the Resident Assistance Program, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on there? Any commission or citizens comment on this?
I have no citizen comment.
And any questions from the commission?
I move to approve resolution number 2266.
Commissioner.
Era, how many people did apply for this in the last one, and how many are we looking at possibly in the future on this one? Are you looking at?
We have, let me add up. I've got my screen open right now. We've got just about, we've got a bunch of applications that had started and not completed. We've got probably, I would say, close to 90 applications under the current program in various stages, some of those approved already. Likely if all of those actually applied, it would utilize more than the money in this first round of funding. We're not sure if we will get a second amount of funding from the state, so we'll keep that open as long as we do have funds available. But the 271,000 divided by the max of 8,000 would be about 33 households. We don't anticipate that everyone's going to need the full amount, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Second motion.
Yeah.
So there was a motion, and Commissioner Carroll seconded the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is item number 19.
Good evening, everyone. Item 19 is an authorization to accept a code enforcement lien agreement between the City of Largo and Alpha Foods Equipment, LLC. This is to ask to authorize the city manager to sign this settlement agreement and execute it. Since 2016, Community Standards has been working with this property. We've had 15 previous code cases in those last 4 years. Currently, there are code violations on the property. We have an open case currently running. Just a little bit of history for you on that. This property is at 6727 126th Avenue. Probably the best way to describe it to you, it's a large parcel directly behind the Charleston off of 66th Street, the Charleston apartment complexes, if that helps you at all. Because of the outstanding fines and liens that have been on this property for a number of years, in February, we moved forward with the authorization from the city manager to do a foreclosure action against the property. As part of that foreclosure action, the judge had ordered a mitigation or mediation session with the city and the property owner and his attorney. With the authorization from the city manager, we did speak on that behalf with our foreclosure attorney, Mr. Widener, and an agreed upon settlement was made that the property owner would bring all current code violations into compliance within 6 weeks. And if he did that, then the city would accept a settlement offer, settlement agreement, payment of one-time $55,000 to settle all the current code liens that are on the property. Currently, right now, there's almost $550,000 in liens on the five cases that are part of the foreclosure action. So this is approximately 10% of the outstanding lien amount. This is consistent with what we've done on a number of the other settlement agreements we've been doing with the foreclosure actions. So we have spoken with the city manager, we've talked to staff, and we believe that this is a good settlement offer for the property and for what we've been dealing with. And obviously the most important thing is to bring it into compliance first. So we're not going to do any of that until he has 6 weeks to do that. And I'm hoping I've had dozens and dozens of conversations with this property owner over the years and been out there with him many times. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that he can bring it into compliance this time and make the payment and settle this situation for us so we don't have to move forward. If he does not comply with the settlement offer or settlement agreement, if he doesn't bring it into compliance within the 6 weeks, if he doesn't make the deposit of the agreed upon money within the agreed upon certain amount of time, then this settlement agreement stipulates that we can move to final judgment on the foreclosure action and allow Mr. Widener to go ahead and process the foreclosure. So it obviously, it's a very serious settlement agreement for the property owner if he doesn't come into compliance this time. And I'm happy to answer any questions for you if you have that.
Do we have any public comment on this?
I have no public comment.
Any questions from the commission?
Go ahead.
Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Carroll can go first.
Commissioner Carroll.
Well, thank you. Mr. Schofield, where's this money bound? If we wind up getting this, settling this, where's that money going?
Like all money that comes in from code enforcement or community standards actions, it will go into the general fund. Certainly at that point, it's up to the commission and the city manager to determine where that goes. As you know, a lot of the money that we've used recently is for the small business grants we've been doing to help them through COVID. We've also been able to create and hopefully gets approved the Angel Fund, which we're going to be using for code enforcement violations for the elderly, disabled, and financially impacted. So there's a lot of areas where we're hoping this money is going to go back into our system and go back to our community to help them.
Thank you. I just wanted to hear you say that out loud. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith.
Tracy, what are some of his past violations?
They've been substantial. This is a large parcel of property with a number of warehouses on the property. He's allowed businesses to come onto the property that are unlicensed, they have no business tax receipts. Some of them aren't licensed to the state of Florida. So there's been a lot of outdoor storage, a lot of junk, trash, and debris. The property owner himself has illegally buried hazardous material on the property, and that being dense plastic material. He took plastic materials from Plant City strawberry growers, brought it here to the city of Largo and buried it on the site. We did catch that. We worked with the state DEP, made him remove that. All of that plastic material is currently stored in one of the warehouses on the property, so he still has to deal with that. He's attempted to have it disposed of with Pinellas County Utilities, but its financial cost is substantial, which is why he attempted to bury it on the property in the first place. We've got junk trash and debris. We've got a lot of work without permits. He's put in doors, roofs. We have inoperable vehicles on the property currently right now. We have a pallet company that's there illegally right now that has hundreds, if not thousands of pallets dumped all over the property. So for him to come into compliance in this next 6 weeks, he's going to have to work hard. He's going to have to work with the people he's allowed onto the property to get them involved to clean up their messes. So this is going to test him and test his resolve on if he can bring it into compliance or not.
How are we going to keep an eye on him so he's not burying it or taking it somewhere else to another city?
We can only do the best we can. My code officer that's assigned to this area and has been working with the property owner since the beginning. She's been out there no less than 100 times. I've been out there no less than a dozen times. We have a first name relationship conversation with him on a regular basis. He knows us, we know him. With now that there's a settlement agreement and the foreclosure action is certainly moving through the courts. He does have legal counsel, I think is giving him some good guidance. So we're hoping that he's going to do the appropriate things and take care of the violations appropriately and correctly.
And there's no wiggle room at the end. He's getting closed or something like that. We're not giving him any wiggle room.
Well, the only wiggle room is this, and it's consistent with every foreclosure. Let's say that he does not come into compliance and the judge orders a final judgment of $55,000 or so, whatever the total amount is. It'll be somewhere around that amount. If, and this is a big if he was somehow able to obtain that money, he could pay the judge's final judgment order, which is pay it in full or it gets foreclosed on in a foreclosure sale. We have had 2 of those happen in the last 8 weeks where it went to final judgment, the judge ordered a final amount and the people came in and paid it instead of losing their property. They were around $60,000 a piece. I do not believe that this gentleman would be able to pay the $55,000. So it is certainly to his best interest to bring it into compliance and work with us to try to bring his property into compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So with those 2 properties that have happened recently, were those properties in compliance, or did the judge just order that they could pay and not lose their property?
One was in compliance and one wasn't. If you're familiar with the gas station in Missouri and Rosary that we had for a long time, the gentleman owed almost $60,000 for that. The day before it was supposed to go to sale, he walked into Mr. Widener's office with a check and paid it in full. Because that met the judge's order, we had to stop the foreclosure action. He had met the judge's order. The next day, we opened a new code case against the property owner for the same violations that were in violation the day before, but we had to create a new case and start the process over again. A little frustrating for us, but unfortunately, that's just how the process is set up. It's rare that they do this. We've had a number of, and certainly Alan can speak on that. It's rare that somebody just walks in and writes a very large check like that.
All right, so let's say that this property does come into compliance and moves forward, and he's out of this current situation. If in 3 months it's out of compliance again, will it be treated like a repeat offender, or would it be a brand new type situation?
It depends on what the violation is. He is currently a repeat violator for a number of different city code violations, building without permits, junk trash and debris, inoperable vehicles. If there are any type of violation like that again, those would be considered repeat violators and the fines would start immediately and we'd take him in front of the magistrate.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah. Tracy, let's take the scenario that we go to foreclose on this guy. Is that, number one, is that going to put him out of business? That's question number one. Question number two, what would we do with that place? Would we sell it? Would try to rehabilitate it? Alan, what would we do with the thing if you did a foreclosure on it?
So understand, if in a foreclosure, all that means is the property will be sold by the clerk of the court. It doesn't mean that the city has to buy the property. That means that anybody can come in and buy the property, and the money up to the amount of whatever judgment the city obtains would be paid to the city as opposed to the property owner. How that might affect his business, you know, that's not something that I could speculate on.
Okay, but the actual amount of money is what, 10 times, what is it, 548,000 is the actual code enforcement fines against the place. And we're saying we're going to settle it for 10 cents on the dollar, basically, just to, if he comes into compliance on it. But if not, then it's going to go to foreclosure. Then you're saying the clerk of the courts can turn around and sell the place. If that's the case, would we recover the $500,000 or would we recover the 55,000?
It depends on what the sale is.
Yeah, we would recover however much is paid. So typically the way a foreclosure would work is we would, or we could, bid up to the $500,000, not pay any, you know, not come out of pocket a dime. And if there's nobody that bids over us, we then become the owners of the property. The city owns the property without having paid any money.
Very good. All right, thank you.
And if I just might add on that, this property, because of some of the environmental concerns, we'd have to have serious discussions with Mr. Schubert and probably the commission before we'd consider bidding on this. Even though it's probably a valuable piece of property, it might have some environmental issues that the city might want to steer clear from if we were going to buy that.
Yeah, we do not want to own this property.
Any other questions? Anybody want a large ball of plastic? No.
I'll skip that. I move to approve the settlement with Alpha Food Equipment LLC and authorize the city manager to execute the settlement agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Hey, Tracy, actually, what kind of food equipment do they do?
They don't.
I want to make sure I avoid it.
They don't. That's a name. This is the property owner has got a lot of businesses. They have a lot of developments. Some of them that are going on in the city right now that we have other code cases on. But the name Alpha Food is a name that was probably from different businesses back in the day, but they really don't do anything food equipment related that we can tell on the site and haven't in at least the 3 years I've been here.
I feel better.
Well, thank you. Next up is item number 20.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I am going to attempt to share my screen real quick. I have a presentation for this item. Okay. All right. This presentation will discuss a proposed amendment to Chapter 14 of the Comprehensive Development Code, which covers affordable housing. The CDC defines affordable housing developments as residential developments that receive incentives for set-aside units for households earning 120 or less of the area median income, adjusted for household size. Some examples are Pinellas Heights, Bel Air Place, and Bayside Court. So why are we amending the CDC? The city was approached, just as some background information, the city was approached by a developer interested in doing an affordable housing development in the Community Development Block Grant target area as a mixed income development. In this discussion, they were looking to exceed the 30% set aside maximum for the area. And this discussion really prompted staff to review the existing standards, which were found to be too restrictive in terms of maximum set asides for the affordable housing. And so this is part of a larger effort to examine and update existing housing strategies to provide more options. And some long-term things that we're looking to do is address accessory dwelling units, non-conforming lots, and as you heard earlier on the agenda, the special area plan density bonuses. We will also be taking a look at that. So this is some housing data that just demonstrates the need for Largo to have and address affordable housing options for the residents. For instance, the home sale and rent list prices continue to rise despite the median income in Largo being $41,008. So these CDC amendments propose to clarify the definition of affordable housing developments and will include the community development block grant target areas and special area plans within the section that allows for designated areas to have set-asides above 30% and up to 70%. So the set-asides are the percent affordable units. In addition, if it meets additional criteria outlined in the ordinance, it could exceed the 70% set-aside requirement. So the proposed, let's see, that's the last slide. The proposed amendment was reviewed and recommended by approval by the Community Development Advisory Board on July 27th, and also went to Planning Board on August 6th and was recommended approval. And we are looking to schedule a second reading for September 15th. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ordinance number 2020-41, an ordinance of the City of Largo, Florida, amending the City of Largo Comprehensive Development Code by amending sections 14.1.2 definition of affordable housing development, and by amending section 14.3 amending the minimum criteria for the affordable housing development designation in the community redevelopment districts, special area plans, and community development block grant target areas, providing for applicability, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have any cards on the public comment on this?
I have no public comment.
Mr. King, I'd like to point out that it's not yet 9 o'clock, and you said 9 o'clock. So.
You know, you guys are ahead of schedule. Sean King, Director of Government Relations Advocacy with Habitat for Humanity. I will keep it brief since this is the last agenda item and it is before 9 o'clock. We obviously support this code amendment change. We want to thank the commission and staff for all their help along the way. I'll answer any questions. We're in due diligence period of a parcel that's potentially about 60 single family homes for residents of Largo that we think will go a long way, especially for that local community. Without this amendment, that project will not be moving forward. So I just want to say again, thank you for the support of the staff and everybody else along the way. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer it, but I'll keep my comments brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Where are you building the 60 houses?
So it's just west of Missouri. The address is 1756 MLK Avenue.
Oh, out there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
By the school, next to the school.
Right next to it. We're hopeful, and it's going to be using some funding, but without this designation, there's no way the numbers will work.
So
make it work.
My only question is, I'm not sure if we've looked at this, but I'm always curious. I think this is a great project, and I think that this is something we need to consider for allowing projects like this to be developed in Largo. But I'm curious what our neighbors are doing in this. Like, what type of percentages do our neighbors to the north and the south, and I think I understand the ones to the west. Where are our neighbors with allowing infill affordable housing to this scale? And that may not be a question that can be answered tonight, but go ahead.
I'll try to answer that to the best of my ability, just given, we develop all from West Pasco all the way to South St. Pete. Sure. It depends on a municipality. This code, quite honestly and candidly, it's antiquated. It dates back to the 90s. 30% affordable. We firmly support mixed income, but 30% is super restrictive. And when you look at, definitions of affordable housing, we really get into workforce and whatnot. Under 80%, just to give the commission, everybody an idea, 80% AMI for a single mother or a single father with 2 children is about $45,000 a year. So think of how many of the Largo residents or the residents in Pinellas County alone fit that. So that's what we're really talking about. And the definitions have changed over the years. So this is kind of bringing it up to a closer standard.
Any other questions?
I move to approve ordinance number 2020-41 on first reading and schedule a second reading and public hearing on September 15, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Made it happen, Sean.
Yeah, it looks like a great project. So
we'll have everybody out for the groundbreaking. Thank you again, and I'll let you go because it's before 9.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Mr. Zimmett, do you have anything this evening? It looked like I read some lips that said he didn't have anything.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, see?
Read lips well.
Commissioner Holmes.
I just wish Chris Latvala a speedy recovery.
Says he's doing a little bit better today. Commissioner Robinson.
We're wishing people a speedy recovery. Mike Sutton is also recovering from COVID, who was probably why he wasn't at this meeting. So wish him a speedy recovery as well. I'd have a question for the commission. I spoke to the city manager about this, and I think it would be best to get some consensus. I don't know if you guys if everybody received the 2020 Regional Equity Report. It was a report done by the Tampa Bay Partnership. I think it was emailed to me last week, and I'm not sure if everybody received it or not. I'd be glad to forward it out or send it to Gloria so she can send it out. Anyhow, it talks about the state of the region and the inequities of the region's Black residents, both within Tampa Bay, and compares it to a set of 19 benchmarks communities across the country, and how dramatically inequitable we are here in the Tampa Bay area. So anyhow, it's a rather in-depth report. Again, I'd be glad to send it to you. But my question from the commission would be, would it be possible for us to have some representatives from the Tampa Bay Partnership come to a work session in the near future to discuss this a little bit more in depth and see, maybe start having a conversation about what we can do in Largo to start bringing some of these inequity, or, start equaling out some of these things. So just want to know if there's any consensus from the commission to be able to do that.
Jimmy, was this for the county or for the state or?
So it's the Tampa Bay region. So the report focuses on the Tampa Bay region. I think the 6 or 8 counties in the Tampa Bay region here.
Okay.
Again, I'll be happy to send it out. I'll forward it over to Gloria so she can send it out to you guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great, it would be a great thing to bring them and get a presentation. The city manager and I had a conversation today about how we reach out to not just the African-American community in the city of Largo, but other minorities and other groups that are maybe underrepresented, and how we can reach out to those folks and involve folks more, and make sure that everybody understands the opportunities that they have here in our city, and help them get access to those opportunities. So this is a great step in that direction.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
That's all I had for tonight.
Thank you for bringing that up. Vice Mayor Holk.
Yes, I just wanted to point out something that put Largo on the map again in a good way, that we actually had a winner from Publishers Clearinghouse here in Largo, won $1 million on Monday. So I thought that was kind of cool that it was, that it really does happen, because I've always wondered that, but it did happen here in Largo. And congratulations to her. And thank you to everybody, all the staff reports, everything that we voted on, and the presentations tonight. Everything was very well done as usual. And thank you to the Largo staff for everything they do. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Carroll.
I wondered was that winner at the vice mayor's house? No? Okay, sorry about that. I was going to piggyback on what Donna said. We covered a wide variety of topics tonight and some big items, great presentations, and it's yet another example of the quality of the work that's done by our staff and presentations we receive. I'm kind of like Jamie earlier. Somebody made a comment that they thought we were trying to pull a fast one by doing virtual meetings. I mean, I'd much rather meeting in person, but this is all we got. So, but in spite of that, in spite of this being all we have, our staff's doing great stuff. And that's all I have, except for I wondered if there are any special instructions for Thursday. Probably Henry will talk about that later.
I can answer that briefly right now. No, there aren't any special instructions. Obviously, the two items on the agenda are the property tax rate and the annual budget, which we've gone over in quite detail at previous work sessions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Just one thing, today is the first day of the welcoming week basket drive at the Largo Library. They're going through now through the 30th, where you can go online or I believe stop at the library and drop stuff off, or are helping refugees in the community. And online on the Facebook page for the library, they have links to their Amazon wish list and a Target wish list. So if anybody can help provide help with these baskets for our refugees, we would deeply appreciate it. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Finger.
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I just on my list was to remind everybody that I'll see you on Thursday. And also I wanted to thank my son Wyland for letting me borrow his desk. It's the first time I've had like stormtroopers right next to me while I'm running the meeting. And this will be returned to 6th grade tomorrow morning. Mr. Schubert.
I have nothing this evening. See you at the special meeting on Thursday.
Mr. Zimmert's ringing in.
Yeah. I forgot, I did mean to ask the commission if you would like Ms. Day and I to put together the ethics and sunshine law training session. I don't know how many of you, I think last time I heard from Diane, I believe 2 commissioners had done the training so far this year. And I know there's a training session coming up, but if everybody can't make that, if it would be beneficial for us to try to put one together, we'll probably have to do it virtually, but I do want to ask that question because we'll need to get it scheduled before the end of the year.
I for one am fine. I mean, I like listening to you guys, but I also don't have a problem watching the video from the past on my own schedule. It's a little bit easier for me to schedule that around, and I don't know if anybody else feels similarly or differently.
No, I agree. That's the way I attended it last year, and was planning to talked with Gloria and was planning to do that as well as the online. So you can do it at your day and time as well.
Right. So I'm sure that, I think Gloria recently shared those links. If not, she can do it again as well. So
Mayor, well, not to sound unethical, but I don't remember if I took it or not. I believe I did when the Florida League of Cities had it earlier this year, but COVID has got my memory kind of messed up here. So I think
you didn't take it, Jamie. You didn't take it.
Oh, he did too. I've got his file.
I think you and I did it in June.
Yeah, I don't remember yesterday, man. I couldn't tell you. But I'm still, Alan, I assure you, I'm following everything that they talked about.
I think Commissioner Smith just signed you into his one he went to.
I believe so.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you all have it covered. I just wanted to make the offer.
I appreciate it.
We'll look forward to next year with you guys.
Well, we can do it in person, ask
Well, we're
questions.
allowed to see everybody.
Right. Do we have any action items?
Yes, I have a couple things. The first was a request from Commissioner Robinson that we contact the 4 residents who sent us emails about the sewer rate increase and send them the video clip of that discussion with Mr. Adams, as well as some of the information from the website. A request from Mayor Brown that staff look into the status of upcoming projects in the King Grove subdivision. I think I'm missing one. Oh, first one should have been information on, is it benzene discharge limits? And that was from Commissioner Smith.
Yes, please.
And then the last one was from Commissioner Robinson to invite, and I'm sorry I did not catch the group, to talk about the report on inequity in the Tampa Bay region.
Yep, that's a Tampa Bay partnership.
Like to a work session?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So the only amendment to that I would suggest is if you could, for the 4 email speakers, start with a letter that thanks them for input, because we, we're thirsty for input from our residents. So it's good to start out with a thank you for taking the time, and on behalf of the mayor and commission, thank you. And then the rest, send them that information. That'd be great too.
Okay, thank you.
If there's nothing else, meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Good night, guys.